All right, welcome to Project Mom's car, which is our 02 Grand Am SE. This one has a 2.2 liter in it, and I just found out that if you get the OE plugs, which I did, this is your OE plug number 41-834, they are pre-gap to 43 thousandths, which is exactly what that gap is supposed to be on this car. So we don't have to go through and show you how to gap plugs or nothing. It's basically we pull the old plugs out, put the new plugs in. First thing we need to do is we need to unhook our module, because this plate comes up. This is where your spark plugs live, under this plate. So we'll unplug our module, set that to the side. These I think are 10 millimeter. Let's take a look here real quick. Grab us an extension here so we can do this thing. This should be a pretty quick and easy job if everything goes according to plan, which it should. Pull our 4 cover bolts out. That's to hold our coil pack. So we'll pop these 4 bolts out. Service information says you change these spark plugs every 100,000 miles. So you don't have to change these for quite a long time. If you do a lot of driving, then you'll do them more frequently. But if you don't do a lot of driving, you'll probably maybe change these once in the car's lifetime, depending on where you live. So, get our bolts out. And I understand, because I've never done one of these before. Let's grab our screws. They're all the same, so we don't have to worry about long ones and short ones. You're supposed to be able to pick this up and slide it out from underneath the cables. Because we got a cruise cable and then we got a throttle cable, I think. That's what we got here. Let's see. Yeah, one of them's a transmission cable. So we're going to have to set our screws up here on our cowl so we don't lose them. And we'll pick this up. Oh yeah. Okay, that's how this works. We got to pick this up and we got to slide it out from underneath here. But I think we got to take our cables loose. So that is a nut over here. We got to take off the valve cover. And then we can move our cables out of the way, because they're hitting this bracket right here. So we got to get them away from this bracket. Let me see what size that is. See if it's a 10. Sometimes you can get in here with a socket and just catch it with a socket. These are going to be 13 millimeter, I believe. Should have one over here on the ground since we were just doing some other work on the car. Put our 13 on there and see if we can get that to fit on there. Yep, it's a 13 deep socket. So let me go grab my 13 deep socket out of my toolbox. We'll snake in there and grab that real quick. Alright, so we got to get down in there. So it's, we might be able just to do it like this. Yeah, see, like that. We'll pull our cable back. We might be able to get a socket on that, or a ratchet. At least to the point where we can get it off the car. Nope, we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to use a wrench on it, so stand by. I'll grab a wrench real quick. Flex head right here. It just happens to be on the ground over there, conveniently located. I'll take this and get this stud loose here. And then we can get our cables moved out of the way. After you get the thing loose, you can put your socket back on it and spin it out with your socket like this. Move my hand out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Make sure we put this bracket back in because it holds all your cables. So we want to make sure we don't have a problem with your cable. And you want to kind of not get your socket trapped. Take the shorter socket that we did have, put it on there, and then spin it the rest of the way out. It's gonna be fun trying to get this back in there. All right, and when you start seeing it wobble, you grab it and you just pull it out just like that. Set that up there with the rest of your hardware, and then we can move this out of the way. Move this up, and we can pick this up. And we can pick this up and lift it up and off. And this is your coil pack. This is what your coil pack looks like. So it's plug on boot, except it's got coil packs built into the top. So what we're going to have to do is make sure we get a lot of our dielectric grease in there to keep that lubricated. And I'll take you off the pod so you can see the spark plug holes. So, and there's your spark plug holes. Make sure before you pull those plugs out that you clean this out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab the air hose and I'm going to blow that out before I do anything. You can also use a vacuum cleaner, but I got a little bit of air left in my air hose, so I'm going to pull these plugs out and then we'll continue on. So just one moment, please. All right, now we're going to pull some spark plugs. Get the longest extension you own because those are down inside spark plug tubes. Make sure you got your magnetic spark plug socket. And we're going to go down in here, starting with number 1, which is this one right here. There we go. Pop these loose. And then when we get that pop loose, we're going to zoom them out with our zipper here. There's our spark plug. And these should be original because this car is OE, so this should be in 41843, just like what we pulled out of. Oh, look at that, 41981, original AC Delco plug, 125-69190. Look at that, ain't that something else? Brand new. That was an original plug, and yes, it had 100,000 miles on it. That tip is gone. That was original. And we're getting original put back in it because that's the new, that's the superseded plug number, by the way, what we're putting in it. So it used to have this in it, now it's going to have this in it. OE plug. I'm going to save these because these are pretty cool plugs. I'm not going to throw them in my pile or nothing. That had nothing on it, so we're not going to put nothing on this end, so we're just going to put this back down in the hole. We're going to put dielectric grease on the boot so we don't have to worry about putting it in on the plugs. So while we're doing spark plugs, let's talk about spark plugs. Brand is important. Type of plug is important. Because if you get the wrong plug for your vehicle, you will have problems. Case in point, over the weekend. By the way, these torque to 11 foot-pounds, or just snug. Over the weekend, oh my goodness. Yeah, these are original. I had an 02 Suzuki come in. Had a 2.5 in it, so it's the V6. And it had a misfire. Cylinder 3 misfire. That car is supposed to have copper plugs in it because it was required to have copper plugs. Here's number 2, by the way. There we go. And I found iridiums in it. And you're thinking, well, that should be no problem, right? No, it was a big problem. They were not only iridium plugs, but they were Autolites. Autolites are not for Suzukis. Autolites don't really fit much of anything anymore, because your GM uses either AC Delco or NGK, depending on or Densos. They use Densos too on the newer ones. Ford uses Motorcraft on all their stuff. Dodge uses Champions or NGK now. And your foreign cars, like your Hondas, your Toyotas, your Nissans, your Suzukis, your Hyundais, your Kias, all that, they use NGK. That is exactly what I put back in her car, NGK, and I kid you not, the minute I did that, the misfire went away. So, spark plugs matter. Just because they're cheap doesn't mean they're efficient. It is worth your time to put the right plug in your car if you continue to want your car to run properly. Because those were iridium plugs that came out of that car. The plug was too hot, so it was causing a misfire because it was sparking too hot. What I mean by that is each plug has a heat load or a heat limit. Ooh, this one's a little bit, you can smell the bad gas on it. That one's pretty toasty. That's why you change your plugs every 100,000 miles, because this tip burns out. So, plug has a heat rating. Back in the day, we used to be able to take a Champion plug and the 2 digits in the middle would tell you what the heat rating was on it. Nowadays, they changed the numbering system where you can't do that much anymore. You can still figure it out, but it just takes you a little longer to do it. So anyway, these are what they call double platinum plugs. That's why they have the tip. Iridium plugs, they have a finer tip than that. That's meant for a hotter spark. So if you put a hotter spark plug in your car thinking you're going to get better fuel economy and better fuel efficiency, that's temporary. The permanent outcome was going to be you'll eventually burn a hole in your piston right in the top, because this thing combusts up. That spark's right there, that combustion's right there. That's going to be too much for that to handle, and it's going to eventually wear down the top of your piston, causing you to no longer have an engine worth driving on. So whatever OE says is the right plug, get it. Don't cheap out, because you'll pay for it in the long run, trust me. So we're just about done here. Every one of these has been torque sealed. Yeah, you can probably tell by how hard it is for me to break these loose, which is because they are the original plug for this car. This car's never had a tune-up. This car is basically just driven. So any repairs that have been done to it, I've done them. So we've got to get this car all set. Yeah, see, this one's done too. Anytime you see like conditioning your plug, see, this is about a normal plug. It's got a little bit of oil burnt on the side of it. That could come from anywhere. I smell dead gas. So these are actually firing properly. There's nothing wrong with this engine. Now if I took that out and I smell oil on it, then I'd start looking at the valve cover, mainly the spark plug tubes, to see if maybe one of the spark plug tubes was leaking. But since they all came out clean, I'm not worried about it. Now what I do is, after I put these plugs in, I'll start it up and let it run a minute, because it's going to change how the engine runs, because the engine's been running on them old plugs for so long. So I'll let it run a few minutes. I'll run scan tool on it, make sure we didn't develop any codes from changing the spark plugs. Sometimes you will, and you just clear them out and they go away and they stay away. Then, of course, you got to check your fluids and everything. But then I'll take it out and drive it and see what it does on the drive. If it drives good, then I'm not worried about it too much, because if it drives good, then you're fine. But if it starts giving me problems, then we start checking codes again, and then, you know, keep going from there. So we got our plugs changed. We got to get our dielectric grease out. So I got to find my scan toolbox and get my dielectric grease. So I'll do that, and I'll be right back, and I'll show you how we finish this up. All right, we got our dielectric grease. Let's grab our coil pack. If you want to make your engine look pretty, you can go ahead and clean this up. I usually use just like some brake clean and a rag. We can wipe this off, because this is just dirt, so I ain't worried about it. What I'm worried about is on this side, because they did have some grease in here at one point. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this down where you can see the coil packs. Set you right there so you can see it real good. You want to get you some dielectric grease. This is the professional size because I use this a lot. You can get a small pack from the parts store and it does the same thing. You want to get a little bit on your finger, like this. And you want to take it and you want to put it right over the top of that boot. You want to cover up that boot like that, because what that's going to do is that's going to slide down the spark plug, and it's going to get on that little metal right there, the electrode on the end of the coil wire, and that's going to act as a water protectant. It's going to keep water out, and it's going to allow for a better spark. Don't use too much of this though, because if you use too much of this, it'll do the opposite of what you want it to do. So now we got to put our coil pack back down in the engine. And then after we get that done, we got to put our cables back in. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So grab your pack like this. Make sure you can see. All right, make sure you can see, because we're trying to do better with our camera angles. All right, so pick up your cables right here. Tip this to the side, roll it back down. When you get it down in the hole, you want to make sure that all your plugs are down on it and push down. And then don't worry about the plug wire sticking on it right away, because that's what these hold down bolts are for. Then we'll put our hold down bolts back in. We'll just zip these back down with our gun here. Just want to just kind of set it down like that, and then get the first one in. And as soon as you set it in the right direction and put the right socket on it, you just want to set it down. You just want to just kind of hold it down. Just put one down in there, and then we'll do the opposite corner here, like this. That's that one. And then we'll do this one here. And then we'll go over and snug them down with the ratchet, like we always do whenever we tighten bolts up. And we'll go through and we'll just snug them down real good with the ratchet. And then we'll put our cable back on the side of the engine block. Just do a small turn on each one of these. You don't want to put too much torque on them. And then we'll bring you back over this side, and I'll show you how we put the cable back on. Since we had to take the cable off to get the coil pack out, I'll zoom you in here. All right, so we got to put our stud back in. So to do that, we got to get our bracket back down. And we'll stick our stud through like this. What I do is I'll stick it through the bracket first so I can see the stud. And then I'll line the bolt up with the hole like this. And I'll start it. Sometimes this thing wants to you'll have an issue where the bracket don't want to line up, and this prevents you from losing the bolt. And this one wants to be a pain. Alright. I don't want to pull this fuel rail back just to get this bolt back in. Trying to do as little damage as possible here, folks. Alright. Sometimes you can get it to go like this. You gotta get it. There's a bolt that you gotta get past in order to get this thing to go in. You can get it past that bolt and get the screw started. In good shape. This thing's being an utter pain. That I'm getting eaten alive by these stupid mosquitoes, which I've already mentioned in the previous video are a huge pain. Probably about 6 of you saw this coming. He's breaking out the magnet. Yep, I am. I'm breaking out the magnet because I want this bolt to go in and not give me any grief. What I could do is I could do it this way too. Not drop the bolt down the engine. It's kind of important. You got to put this back together. It's always easier than it is going together than it is coming apart. I've learned that over the years. Let's see if we can get that bolt to fit through here. You got to get your magnet in the right spot. Get it down in the hole, and once you get it started in the hole, which I have not done yet. Yeah, bless America. All right. You gotta. Once you get the thread started, it's pretty easy after that. And we got thread started, so we're good to go now. Now we'll take our short socket. And if I can find the short socket, I just had it a minute ago. Here it is. We'll put our short socket on our bolt, so we got something to spin. And we'll turn our socket in like this. And then we can't get it with this one, we'll switch over to our longer socket. Now I could probably do this with a ratcheting wrench, but I have these fuel lines in the way. That's why I can't get it with a ratcheting wrench. So I find the best way I can to do this with the least amount of teardown. And that's what it's all about in this business, the least amount of teardown. See, now we got it tightened up. We got to tighten it up with our wrench. So it's basically the reverse operation of what we started with. So, get nice and tight. Make sure all of our tools are cleared from the area. We got to plug our coil pack back in, so we got to find our coil pack wire, which is right here. That does not get any grease, that just snaps back on. Make sure it clicks. I saw the tab bend down, so I know it clicked. Well, let's give it a start and see what it sounds like. The ticking went away. There used to be a tick in here that sounded pretty ugly. Sounds pretty good, don't it, for a 2.2? 106,000 miles on this car. Sounds pretty good. I'm rather happy with it myself. We already checked our filter. Our air filter's good. We don't have to worry about that. So the only thing I need to do is pump my brake up and then fill up my brake reservoir because it's low. and then I got to take it out and drive it, and that's about it. So the next video you see on this is probably going to be when we get ready to take it to New York to show it to my mom. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Of course, if there's stuff that we find wrong in New York, we're going to have to come back and fix it. But for right now, I think that's going to do it for us on Project Mom's car. So unless something else comes up, we'll see you on the next one.